Noble goals for noble souls, transforming our world to a better wonder to behold. No poverty, zero hunger for the elderly or younger. Good health and well-being, good education, empowering women to become sensation. Clean water and sanitation, is it not the right of every nation? Economic growth, inclusive and sustained, through industry, innovation and infrastructure be gained. Reduce inequality for sure, make cities and human settlements safe and secure. Take urgent actions to combat climate change, conserve, let below water, land, ensure we do not estrange. Justice for all, oh peaceful and empathetic nations. Let us all partner to achieve these goals and provide much needed salvation.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. A very good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, good day, mate, terve, and marapan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 131 of the podcast Each One Teach 10, an amazing world of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is a part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build that STEM culture. When we talk about preparing for the future, we often jump straight to technology, artificial intelligence, or latest innovations. But I've always wondered if the future is really shaped by the tools or by the people who choose to use them. Today's guest has spent his career exploring that very question. It's my absolute honor to have today the founder of Lab of Future, Arpit Dugar, who's worked across education, technology, entrepreneurship, even literature, all driven by one belief that every individual deserves the opportunity to discover their potential. Arpit, it's wonderful to have you on the podcast today. So, how are you doing today?
Very well, Namya. Thank you so much for having me here. I think this conversation is going to be very exciting.
Same here. That's what I totally believe as well. Thank you so much. Amazing. So, when I was reading about your journey, one thing kept standing out to me, whether it's space science, STEM education, entrepreneurship, or writing novels. Curiosity seems to be the thread connecting like everything that you've done. So, was there a single moment that made you realize you wanted to build things instead of simply learning about them? Or has curiosity always been a part of who you are?
Yeah, Namya, I think as human beings, all of us have instincts of curiosity. It's just that some of us only get that chance to explore it. As kids, we are always curious to know more. Yeah, from the time when we are in the womb, we are curious, and that's scientifically vetted, proved. So, in my early days, the biggest eureka moments that used to happen were to find out how anything is working, how things come into place. You pick any machine around you. Let's say you have a microphone right in front of you. What is there inside this microphone, which is letting this thing happen? What kind of parts are used? How many parts are there? How does somebody even ideate the first part that I have to bring in to get this thing in shape? So I used to break a lot of things trying to just rebuild them. And I failed always. I could never rebuild things which I broke during that time. But that is where I think that curious instinct kept alive, and that made me do a lot of experimentation during my engineering days. That's how I think things started. One of the good moments that I still remember is I opened up my first synthesizer, my piano, completely, trying to trying to make something which is out of the box. But unfortunately, that experiment failed that time. Today, we make a lot of circuits on music by our own selves. But that was something which I would fondly remember.
That is really interesting. Like, would be unique to see opening a synthesizer and trying to, rebuild that. But that's again like quite something that is deeply human and very instinctive. That curiosity wasn't something you picked up later; it was always there. Like, something that's always keeping you running. And of course, those eureka moments where you weren't just amazed about how things worked out, but really compelled to take them apart, rebuild them, and even if you failed, you're learning from how you can do better the next time. So that is something that I feel
Absolutely,
like
because being curious is really important. That's what is the tagline of Lab of Future today. Be curious. So
absolutely.
even today, if I get an opportunity to go and see something, observe something, learn from somewhere, I would never miss that opportunity. I keep on attending various styles of workshops, events, exhibitions, which may or might not be related to directly to my work. But in that journey, a lot of things get discovered. So let's say there is a exhibition going on for printing technology. That might not directly be related to anything that I am doing, but when I am there, I get to learn about different styles of the whole printing engineering uh, technologies are going on, the different types of companies that have emerged up, the new styles of doing the same work. So it's a load of learning that happens. So you have to be curious. This is the age when you need that's no more a want. It's a need. If you are not curious, you are outdated.
I agree, and also like even if you're being curious about the fields you're now working in, you get to learn from them, and there are specific, I think, ideas that you can implement in your own field. So always great to explore and be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So, of course, that naturally brings us to education because, like you said, curiosity is where learning begins. And you worked with educators and learners across different countries and education systems. And that really gives you a unique perspective on what works and what doesn't. So, if you had the opportunity to redesign education from scratch today, what would you refuse to keep and what would you build instead?
Okay. You actually asked a business idea right now, if I have to put the other way. But yes, I have a dream of changing the entire education system by bringing the real skills which are needed to thrive in this world, not just to survive. You just take example, Namya. Let's say you talk about an era where agriculture was important. So you required skills which could help fulfilling the requirements of agricultural era. Similarly, when industrialization was there, so certain skills around industrialization were needed. When computer age came in, certain skills around computers and internet were required. Now, when AI age is there, so skills around AI is needed. In future, there are a lot of upcoming challenges around climate change, around sustainability, around food distribution, around space exploration, around almost everything. So skills have to be revamped to match that world, those challenges. Unfortunately, the education systems of today are nowhere in that league, preparing students for what is coming up. So it is a very awkward, obsolete situation wherein we are preparing, giving our lives of 12 years, 15 years, 18 years, preparing for something which will not exist. Henceforth, a complete revamp of education system is needed. We can't be running with those age-old methods, philosophies, curriculum, which doesn't make much sense except the first principles. So we need to bring first principles right. We need to create 360-degree human individuals who are not just savvy with tech. Tech is just one part of the whole 360-degree system. But beyond tech, there are certain soft skills. Students have to be philosophically strong, spiritually strong. have to be more aware about the global concepts. So the school that I envision will not have a structured curriculum. It will have quarterly projects and themes. And around that, all the learning will happen with real-time application of every situation. So not just science, technology, research, engineering, arts, mathematics, entrepreneurship, resilience, everything will come into action together. So that's what I dream of. So in my dream, the current systems do not exist.
I kind of relate to that, and that really resonates that the side that right now education is still preparing people to survive and actually thrive is a sad reality. And like you said, we just can't keep running the old systems and expect different outcomes. What really stood out to me is your focus on building, that whole individual, 360-degree individuals, people who are not just academically strong, but also are practical, they're aware, and they know how to adapt in the real world. I feel like you're really calling for a shift towards something that is more holistic and relevant to the times we're living in. And that really makes sense because, like, I'm an ICT student, and we're still being taught in the universities how to just start from basic. And when you talk about, like, being in touch and, of course, keeping up with the technological trends, it is important that we include inculcation of AI to not make our things easier to just get the assignments done, but to understand how it is going to help us, where we have to prompt well and the creative side has to be used. But that's not the case, and that's something I spoke to my professors about as well. But again, that is something that the university and, of course, the whole education system has to take the call for. And we as students are the ones who have to propagate that along with the educators.
I second to it, absolutely.
Thank you. And so rather than, of course, like waiting for education to change, you've actually started building something that, reflects your own vision. So that takes me to the lab of future. The name is incredibly powerful. So when you say future, what future are you actually trying to build here?
Okay, I'll try to little simplify it and tell about how this name was coined, little story around that. So, uh, as a child, I missed a lot of opportunities wherein I wanted to do something, but resources were not available. If resources were available, guidance was not available. When guidance was there, then projects were not available. So there were a lot of, uh, you know, stumble blocks before we could approach a particular problem. Um, it was 2014 when I got a chance to work with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and this was my second book's release. So I write as well. So when my second book got released, then I was again I was a curious child who used to write to Dr. Kalam for almost 17 years. I think you are perhaps 19, 20, 21 years of age. So you can assume all those years I used to write to Dr. Kalam, and finally I received a reply. So when you talk about future, all individuals will require the art of perseverance. You will require a lot of patience. You will have to pursue something diligently to get those things going. So that is one of the soft skills that every individual will require if they have to thrive in future. Because a lot of collaboration will happen. For a collaboration to happen, it is going to take its own sweet time when people are going to merge together and form teams and exchange ideas and bring things in place. So when I got an opportunity from 1997 when I wrote my first letter. I was in grade six, and in 2014 when I got the opportunity to meet him. The discussions that happened were around how to bring in scientific temperament in the society. Because till the time people start thinking from science perspective, we will always have all the worldly problems ongoing. Nothing will die down because you don't have rational arguments. And the seed of doing something for bringing in science up in the society got planted there. 10 years fast forward from there, around 2023, I was just trying to think that I want to create one concept which remains relevant in future, which gives a hope for future, which creates a platform and ecosystem wherein anyone and everyone can come and create a better future for themselves as well as for the planet. And henceforth, to do all these experimentations of research, of technology, on sciences, on all the other domains. These things started to come together. Experiments, future, thriving, and the name got coined as Lab of Future. So let's prepare a laboratory which keeps you prepared for the future, wherein you can come, experiment, learn, build, iterate, analyze, uh, become a critic, solve a problem, become an innovator. So with all that ideation, this term got coined Lab of Future. So what I expect from this Lab of Future, what kind of future individuals, humans I want to create is very simple. Somebody who's prepared to face that world. Now, in that preparation, a lot of peripheries are required, which we are kind of facilitating in the laboratory environment.
That's really interesting, and I feel what I hear that is how personal the idea of the future really is for you, and it's rooted in those early experiences, of course, like you mentioned about missed opportunities, and where it was all about like access, guidance, and resources that weren't always there. And then that long journey of persistence, writing 17 years, eventually getting to work with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. That there's something like deeply grounding about that. I feel like you said resilience and keeping that belief in yourself. And I also love how collaboration and giving time emerges, I think, as the main deep core values. It's not just all about, the outcome, but the journey that you go through. Because I feel that is all about the learning that you have till you reach the end point. And of course, I think that end point is never fulfilling. You always want to achieve more, and you always want to do more in life to feel, fulfilled. And of
Well
course,
said.
when we talk about Lab of Future, it I think is something like you said, like a living space for experimentation or for building that scientific temperament and helping young people to not just engage with technology and science, but also understand like how they can thrive in a way that stays relevant over time. And of course, be the future builders together in that particular space. That's really interesting to know.
Absolutely. So, in last 1.5 year, I personally seen mentored so many students at the lab, and the best thing that I enjoy working with these young brains now. I will call them young. I myself am, but I think the next generation is 10x in terms of their adaptability to new things. So, which I really enjoy, and things that I see is the kind of acknowledgement that you get by doing something and bringing it into life is gives you a very different level of confidence, a different level of exposure. You not just learn technology, you are in our lab, students are not just learning space and astronomy and space robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D designing, the satellite designing, rockets designing, drones designing. These are all mechanisms, tools, programs for for us to bring people together. They get to know that there is a relevance of teamwork, there is a great relevance of soft skills, your negotiation skills, when project management, any real action that you will ever bring in your life will require people who you need to work with. And all people will come with all different type of mindsets. How do you bring 10 different minds to to kind of knit them together to realize one single vision? That's the art that gets developed. So when that art gets developed at very young age, it really gets exciting to have those superhuman, super individuals who will be leading the world for tomorrow.
That is true. People who have divergent ideas come together and converge into one great solution. That is really true. And of course, I feel like that also helps again with the soft skills because you're working together, collaborating. And I think that's why empathy, deep listening skills, and of course, communicating effectively by making sure that you're valuing everybody's opinions. And at the same time, you're having the technical skills enhanced as well as a group, which is amazing to know. And of course, that I think ultimately every vision comes back to the people it's meant to serve. So, if a young learner walked into the lab of future today, what do you hope they walk out believing about themselves?
Okay, so I'll try to answer it objectively.
Okay.
One, they will be confident because they would know how to observe the world and what are the things that are bringing things into place, into order. So today, a student might be interested in becoming a rocket scientist. Tomorrow, might get interested in becoming a chef. The laboratory environment is enabling the child to thrive in both the scenarios. And that's what is my core goal with the Lab of Future, that when students walk out, they are confident, they know which environment they are in, how does the smart world works, how man and machine connections would work, and then they can get accustomed to it and customize solutions for their work. So yeah, I think that's where I envision.
And that really makes sense as well because I think you're just not giving them knowledge, but you're giving that the sense of belief that no matter what path they choose in life, they can still thrive. And I think that's really huge because that is shifting the focus from limiting them to what they can do to actually opening them through, giving them door of possibilities. And the lab itself becomes that space where if you have any self doubt, that is being replaced with soaring agency and confidence. And when you have that environment, like it said, the environment around you shapes you into who you become. And if you have similar like minded individuals who are pumped up with energy and confidence, you get that one spark that you need to, of course, choose whatever you want to do and become in life. Thank you for
So
sharing. Amazing. Right. So, like you said earlier, and I think not a lot of people know that alongside everything else, you're also a novelist. So, how does writing stories influence the way you teach and lead?
sorry, I missed.
No worries. I said that you were mentioning earlier that you're also a novelist. So, how
Oh,
does writing stories influence the way you teach and lead?
uh, I became novelist by accident. I am a person who would start writing whenever I am on emotional high or emotional low. I would try to express it in my words. And while I was in my engineering days, there were a lot of such moments which otherwise usually you were not a part of any college goer. So it really became exciting for me to put them down in my diary, which eventually turned into my first book. Having said that, these stories they start to influence because they create your imagination. And I believe one of the key skills, I'll take this opportunity of this platform today to say, whosoever are watching this, one of the key skills which you require for future is the reading skill. In the world of digitization and AI, everything that is entering into our brain is a creation of somebody else's thought process. We are not creating our own imaginations. This is only reading as an activity which can inculcate imagination, curiosity in you. Take an example, Namya. Let's say if I have to ask you, you imagine a nice scenery, right? What would you imagine? Give me some elements, some assets of your imagination.
Nice scenery. Well, I miss the mountains. Since I'm
Yeah.
in Finland, so I would say snow-covered mountains. It's a rainy weather that's around. So, of course, the amazing scent of wet mud. Um, Nice tea and Maggie, I would say that,
Okay,
stalls
wonderful.
around because I miss those as well. Sitting near the lakeside by dipping my feet in the lake water with my parents, having nice chat with them about life in general. And maybe if I could bring in my imagination here, probably getting to see the northern lights in Indian Himalayas. Even though that's not possible, but we can always imagine.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think the last part, what you added, is the real imagination that you bring in. The initial set of your imagination, if you will ask 100 people the same question, 70 or 80 will somewhere come around this. Why? Because the kind of situations that we imagine are either already in our brains in form of some videos, some images, some text that we have read or we have seen. With reading, you create your own scenarios. So if let's say there is a paragraph written, the way you will read it and you will create a scenario in your mind will be very different than what I will do, will be very different than what a third person will do. Unfortunately, in today's time, that is declining, and henceforth the cognitive triggers are declining. We don't know what to imagine, how to be curious, right? Unless and until we will be able to imagine, we will get controlled by artificial intelligence tomorrow. We will be replaced by that. It's only human imagination which will thrive in tomorrow's world. So it's really important. So stories, writing stories and reading stories is a critical skill which every human being should have. It has influenced me in many ways. All the work that we do today is all because we dream. So we dream of things that we have not seen. We dream of things that might not be possible to achieve, but the core is that we dream. So when we dream, we try to achieve, try to make something possible,
That's true.
and that's what I think is what drives me also. It's an inner drive that I have.
That's really well said because when you have dreams, you get ideas, and then you have to, strive to implement them and make them a reality. So that's like a vicious cycle that keeps on continuing. And of course, I totally agree with your point of reading because I'm an ardent reader myself. And I think reading actually helps you to take you into that world where you imagine scenarios of what you're reading yourself. And that also helps you to, of course, I think, not just entertain but also actively build our ability to visualize. And
So,
especially in a time where people are listening to a lot of opinions on social media or I think our your point of our brain risking, from the shift from just imagining to just consuming what really, stands out and what we're actually seeing. So I think that really feels like writing and of course reading keeps that imaginative muscle alive, and that really helps you to keep that natural flow into how one can teach and lead. So as we're talking about reading, can you let me know what's your favorite book?
oh, I think I have to segment it because my my top favorites keep on changing depending on the phase of life I am in. I
Mm-hmm.
used to greatly enjoy romantic novels when I was in college days. In fact, the first two novels that I wrote somewhere circle around the same theme.
Mm-hmm.
The third novel changed to science fiction, and the fourth one, which I'm currently penning down, is on extraterrestrial life. So now
Okay.
you can imagine the transition that has happened.
Yeah.
Uh, I read a lot of self-help books.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of biographies. To name a few, I think it will be difficult, but I'll tell you the ones which really inspired me. Uh, the uh, the Audacity of Hope really inspired me, which was written by Barack Obama. This book I fondly enjoyed learnings from this book. Dr. Kalam's books I've really enjoyed. Ignited Minds and Wings of Fire are little good books everyone should read. Every child on the planet should be reading those books. It will inspire you for your life. There are a lot of Stephen Covey novels that I would read their books because these are all self-help. And these days I'm reading a lot of science and technology stuff. So I won't bore you with that, but uh, I'm enjoying reading about quantum these days.
Oh, interesting. I've also read a lot about the quantum time theory. Really interesting. Like everything already exists, you're just going through it. And I was like having talks with my friends, and like we can go on and on because, of course, there are different opinions about it. So, me too. Like, I like reading both fiction and self help. And recently, I just, I think one of the favorite books I've had for self help right now is Sadhguru's Karma. I think it was really interesting read, and I really liked the concept about like having difference between involvement and entanglement. And of course, like your involvement with people can be total, but how you remain internally has to be same because your thoughts and your emotions, and of course, what kind of individual you are, should not be affected with your interaction with people. Of course,
Beautiful.
positive affections and of course, like getting inspired by them is great, but if you're being, burdened, then you know that you need to keep your space and step back. So yeah, like I think I also like reading a lot about spirituality and self help. But then again, I'm a Potterhead, so I love reading books which are around fantasy, Harry Potter, and I also recently got to read Project Hail Mary and then watch the movie. So I think
Wow.
that's a good recommendation because I
Then
think
I
that's
would
the
then
best movie.
then I would recommend some of Dan Brown books also to you.
Oh yes, I
Uh,
have read. I
yeah.
think Da Vinci Code.
Okay. Yes. The best thing I like about Dan Brown's fiction is I used to enjoy reading those books because everything, the whole magnificence of the plot will end in one day.
Oh yeah.
Dan Brown's books will start morning 5 a.m., 6 a.m. The situation will start at 5, 6 a.m. and it will end by night. And by that
Yeah.
time, you have flipped around 300, 400 pages. That's a that's a beautiful way of writing. Because in my books, perhaps I covered 17 years in one book. And here there is a Dan Brown who will cover one day in 300 pages.
That
So
is
it's
that's the
amazing.
art of
Yeah,
writing. That's how you express all the words and emotions. Absolutely.
great.
Right. So, as our conversation today comes towards, and I'd like to leave our listeners with something they'll carry beyond today's episode. So, if every young person listening today remembered just one sentence from this conversation, what would you want that sentence to be?
Okay. Don't bring excuses because busy is a person who has time for everything. So be up for it, be ready for it, take up new challenges, and be excited for life.
That is a really good way to, of course, give people inspiration and keep them productively busy and motivated. And perhaps I'd also like to add a final thought, like the next generation, of course, is going to build the future. So, what responsibility do we have today is gonna, of course, ensure that we do not pass on limitations to the young people, but instead pass on possibilities. So, thank you so much, Arpit, for sharing not just your experiences, but of course, your vision for what education can become. And this conversation really reminded me, and of course, I'm sure the listeners as well, that the future isn't just a destination we're waiting for, but is something that we're actively creating every single day with the questions that we ask, having the courage to experiment, and to, of course, believe that every learner has the potential to shape today and eventually tomorrow. So, thank you so much for your amazing thoughts and ideas that you shared.
Thank you so much, Namya, for conducting it beautifully. I enjoyed having this discussion. I'm sure some of our listeners will take some inspiration from whatever we spoke today.
Absolutely, I'm sure about that. And amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining and listening to this episode. I will see you in the next one. Till then, each one, teach 10. Have a nice day.